There are moments in life when the pressure feels unbearable. The weight of your problems, your responsibilities, your thoughts, all of it crashing down at once like a wave that doesn't care how long you've been swimming. And yet, deep beneath that overwhelming force, something quieter remains untouched. A place within you that doesn't shatter under stress. It sharpens. And Stoicism teaches us how to find it. It doesn't promise a life without pain, chaos, or failure. What it offers is far more powerful. The wisdom to transform these very challenges into the raw material for inner strength. Let's begin with what most people fear and avoid: stress. We are often told that stress is harmful, that it must be eliminated at all costs. But the Stoics didn't run from stress. They studied it. They understood that stress, like fire, can either burn or refine. It depends on how you meet it. Marcus Aurelius, facing the burden of empire, war, betrayal, and illness, didn't crumble. He wrote. He examined himself in the midst of turmoil. And through that daily confrontation with hardship, he found peace. Think about that the next time life feels unbearable. What if the pressure is not meant to crush you, but to chisel away what you don't need? What if the anxiety, the heartbreak, the constant resistance you face is actually shaping you into something more focused, more composed, more powerful? You are not weak for feeling stress. You are simply untrained. And training begins with reframing. Instead of asking, "Why is this happening to me?" ask, "What is this trying to teach me?" This is the Stoic transformation, from complaint to clarity. Stress becomes not the enemy but the sharpening stone. Now, as we learn to bear stress, we must also learn to return, again and again, to the present moment. Because this is where your power lives. Not in the regrets of yesterday, nor in the imagined fears of tomorrow. Right now. This breath. This thought. This decision. Seneca said, "We suffer more in imagination than in reality." He was right. Most of our misery is not rooted in the actual moment, but in the stories we tell ourselves about what might happen or what already happened. We spin endless mental webs. And yet, when you bring your attention fully to now, you realize that life is never as unbearable as your mind claims. The only thing that ever truly needs to be handled is this single moment. This single response. This is where freedom begins. So slow down. Observe your thoughts without believing every one of them. Feel your body. Look around you. Let the noise settle. This is not escapism. This is power. The person who knows how to come back to the present, in anger, in confusion, in fear, holds the keys to their own peace. And then, when the present shifts, when life delivers something unexpected, we meet the next Stoic principle. Change is opportunity. Most people dread change. They see it as disruption, as loss. But the Stoics saw it as the very mechanism of life itself. Nothing stays still. Not your body, not your relationships, not the seasons, not the universe. So why should your expectations remain rigid? Epictetus reminded us, it's not what happens to you but how you react to it that matters. Change is not your enemy. It is your invitation. Every shift in your life, a loss, a breakup, a career collapse, an unexpected move, holds a question. Will you resist and suffer? Or will you adapt and grow? This shift in perception turns uncertainty into fuel. Because you're not here to control the tides of life. You're here to learn how to sail. To adjust your sails when the wind changes. To find purpose not in controlling outcomes but in controlling your approach. Change stops being the thing that knocks you off course. It becomes the thing that makes your journey possible. And with every moment of resistance turned into acceptance, you start to cultivate the next layer of strength. Emotional resilience. Resilience is not about never feeling pain. It's about becoming intimate with it without becoming a prisoner to it. When you fall, feel your failure, but don't drown in it. When you are rejected, allow the sting, but don't let it define your worth. When the world doesn't go your way, take a breath, and decide to respond from your values, not your wounds. This is what Stoics trained for, not perfection but clarity in the storm. They saw setbacks as opportunities to practice virtue. When insulted, they practiced patience. When betrayed, they practiced forgiveness. When exhausted, they practiced perseverance. So now, ask yourself, how can you turn today's challenge into practice? What virtue is life asking you to develop in the very discomfort you wish to escape? Because growth is not found in comfort, it's earned in adversity. And resilience is built not by avoiding hardship, but by walking through it again and again with intention. This is not the easy path, but it is the path of freedom. And freedom expands when you learn the fifth principle, self-control and rationality. You are not your impulses. You are not your emotions. You are the awareness that notices them. And through that awareness you gain power. Not by repressing feelings, but by choosing your actions in spite of them. Imagine what your life would look like if you responded, not reacted. If you gave yourself a pause, a sacred moment, between stimulus and response. If you trained yourself to act from wisdom, not fear. From purpose, not pain. The Stoics were masters of that pause. They knew that the person who controls their emotions controls their fate. Because in every argument, every failure, every opportunity to lash out, there is also the chance to rise above. To meet fire with water. To choose the higher ground. And this is not just philosophical. It is practical. Every day you are offered countless chances to practice this discipline. A driver cuts you off. A coworker disrespects you. A plan falls apart. You have a choice. Will you let the moment control you, or will you control the moment? Self-control is not suppression, it's liberation. Because when you no longer react like a puppet to every provocation, you become powerful, unshakable. Come. This is what Stoicism trains us to become, not emotionless but emotionally sovereign. Not passive but conscious. Not cold but clear. And the path to that clarity continues. The world won't slow down for you to catch your breath. It keeps turning, often faster than you'd like. And yet, what Stoicism offers is not a world without chaos, but a mind that remains calm within it. That calm, that strength, it's built in the quiet hours, through a habit that is often neglected, reflective practices for growth. The Stoics were not just thinkers, they were relentless students of themselves. They practiced daily self-examination, not to dwell in guilt, but to sharpen their character. Every night, Marcus Aurelius would review his day, not with shame, but with sincerity. Where did I act with wisdom? Where did I fail? Where can I do better tomorrow? This simple ritual, a quiet conversation with yourself, is one of the most powerful tools for transformation. Because without reflection, we are doomed to repeat our patterns. But with it, we begin to see. We begin to understand how our thoughts shape our emotions, how our emotions shape our actions, and how those actions shape our destiny. So ask yourself, when was the last time you paused long enough to observe yourself honestly? Not to judge, but to learn. This is where growth begins, not in grand gestures, but in the small, silent moments when you choose awareness over autopilot. Grab a journal. Write without filters. Let your inner world speak. You will be surprised by what you find when you stop running from your thoughts and start listening to them. And once you begin to understand yourself, you realize that inner growth is never linear. It requires something deeper, something the Stoics revered, perseverance and grit. Life will test you. That's not a threat, it's a promise. And you are not owed ease. But you are always given a choice, to give up or to keep going. And every time you choose to keep going, to rise when it's hard, to show up when it's thankless, to continue even when the progress is invisible, you are becoming unbreakable. Epictetus said, difficulties are things that show a person what they are. Do you understand the power of that? It means every challenge you face is not in your way, it is the way. That thing you're tempted to avoid, the hard conversation, the failed attempt, the self-doubt, is precisely what you must face to grow. Grit is not glamorous. It's not loud. It's often invisible. But it is what separates those who dream from those who endure. It's waking up tired and doing it anyway. It's falling short and showing up again. It's carrying the weight long enough that eventually, it feels like part of you, not a burden but a blessing. And when grit is paired with virtue, something remarkable happens. You stop chasing comfort and start chasing character. You stop asking for things to be easier and start asking to be stronger. And in that shift, life opens up. You become resilient not because life is gentle, but because you've trained for the storm. And part of that training is the realization that external events are never fully yours to control. But your inner world? That is your domain. So how do you nourish that inner world? One answer, gratitude. The Stoics weren't naive. They saw how cruel and unpredictable the world could be. But precisely because of that, they trained their minds to focus on what remains, what is always within reach, appreciation. Gratitude is not a feel-good trick. It's a survival skill. A way to anchor yourself when everything else feels unstable. When you choose to notice what's working, what's beautiful, what's still here, you shift your perception from scarcity to sufficiency. You wake up and realize, I have breath. I have another chance. I have people who care, even if it's just one. I have this moment, and that's enough. Gratitude doesn't deny the hardship. It gives you a lens through which to endure it. Because when you see clearly what you do have, you stop being paralyzed by what you don't. You stop being consumed by envy, regret, or fear, and start cultivating peace. It's easy to feel grateful when life is good. But Stoicism teaches you to find gratitude even in the fire. To say, Thank you for this pain, it's making me stronger. Thank you for this delay, it's teaching me patience. Thank you for this challenge, it's revealing my strength. Make it a daily practice. Start the morning by listing 3 things you're grateful for. End the night by remembering one beautiful moment, however small. This rewires your mind, slowly but surely, to become your ally, not your saboteur. And once your mind becomes an ally, once you develop the strength to see clearly and endure deeply, you encounter one of Stoicism's most liberating teachings. You are not here to control everything, you are here to love what happens. More fatty. This phrase, love of fate, is not about passive acceptance. It's a radical stance. A declaration that even the things you didn't choose, even the things you never wanted, can be seen as part of your necessary becoming. You didn't want the heartbreak, but it showed you who you are. You didn't ask for the loss, but it taught you to cherish more deeply. You didn't plan for the failure, but it pushed you to grow in ways you never would have chosen on your own. Amor Fati says, don't just accept life, embrace it. Don't just tolerate your circumstances, lean into them. Ask, how is this shaping me? What does this make possible that comfort never could? This mindset changes everything. It takes the bitterness out of struggle and replaces it with curiosity. It transforms victimhood into empowerment. You stop fighting reality and start working with it. Because in the end, your power isn't in resisting life's flow, it's in learning how to move with it. With presence, with courage, with grace. And so, these Stoic perspectives are not lofty ideas meant for ancient philosophers. They are tools, practical, powerful, and timeless, for modern humans navigating real problems. Stress becomes strength. The present moment becomes your home. Change becomes fuel. Reflection becomes your compass. Grit becomes your engine. Gratitude becomes your light. And fate itself, even in its harshest form, becomes your teacher. This is the Stoic path. It is not easy, but it is true. And it leads you to a place that nothing outside of you can give, a deep, unshakable peace. If you were to pause right now, not to react, not to plan, but simply to observe, what would you notice about the state of your own mind? Would you hear tension buzzing beneath the surface? A subtle restlessness? Perhaps 1,000 worries pulling you in every direction? The Stoics would tell you, that's not life pulling you apart, it's your lack of present moment focus. Your power, your clarity, your peace, all of it exists in one place only, now. Seneca wrote, true happiness is to enjoy the present without anxious dependence upon the future. Yet, how often do we live not in the present, but in a version of the past we can't change or a future we can't control? We rehearse worst-case scenarios. We carry old grudges. We sprint through today just to worry about tomorrow. But the moment you bring your awareness fully into the now, into your breath, your sensations, your thoughts without judgment, everything shifts. The noise fades. You come back to yourself. This isn't about ignoring your responsibilities or pretending life isn't difficult. It's about reclaiming the space between stimulus and response. That space, as Viktor Frankl said, is where your freedom lies. Mindfulness isn't a luxury. It's a lifeline. Whether you practice it through meditation, breathing, movement, or simply noticing, the goal is the same. Anchor yourself to what is rather than drown in what might be. Because if you live in the present, you begin to realize something profound. This moment is enough. You don't need to fix the entire future right now. You just need to show up fully for what's in front of you. One deep breath, one clear action, one true word. And in that presence, something else begins to soften, your fear of change. Most of us fear change not because it's painful, but because it exposes our illusion of control. We build routines, relationships, identities, and then life dares to shift them. Suddenly the familiar feels foreign. The map no longer fits the territory. But the Stoics didn't resist change, they embraced it. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself daily, the universe is change, our life is what our thoughts make of it. Change isn't your enemy. It's the very mechanism of growth. Without change, you remain stagnant, repeating old habits, clinging to outdated identities, mistaking comfort for wisdom. True resilience isn't about preventing change. It's about cultivating a mindset that can adapt. When plans fall apart, you improvise. When people leave, you grieve, and then grow. When failure strikes, you ask, what can I learn here? Each shift in your life is a classroom. Each disruption is a mirror. Will you see chaos or will you see opportunity? You can't control what changes, but you can control your framing of it. And the moment you start to see change not as an interruption, but as an invitation, that's when life starts working with you, not against you. Because behind every change is a lesson you could never have learned in stillness. Behind every ending is the birth of a new version of you. And the more you lean into change, the more adaptable, creative, and unshakable you become. But to do that, to face change with courage, you need something that Stoicism holds at its core: emotional resilience. We often think of resilience as toughness, as being unfazed, unbroken. But the Stoics saw resilience differently. It wasn't the absence of emotion. It was the ability to hold emotion with wisdom. Imagine anger rising, or sorrow, or fear. The untrained mind either suppresses or surrenders to it. But the Stoic mind steps back. It observes. It asks, what is this emotion trying to teach me? Is it guiding me or controlling me? That pause, that inquiry, is where resilience lives. Resilience is the ability to feel deeply, yet remain rooted. To hurt but not harden. To face life honestly and still choose to grow. And resilience is built like muscle, not all at once but rep by rep. Each time you sit with discomfort instead of fleeing it, you get stronger. Each time you reframe a setback as a teacher, you grow wiser. Each time you let go of what you can't control and act on what you can, you become more grounded. The Stoics knew that emotional pain is part of life, but suffering from that pain is optional. Suffering comes when we resist what is, when we argue with reality, when we cling to false stories. But when we accept, observe, and respond with virtue, we free ourselves. You don't need to be perfect to be resilient. You just need to be willing. Willing to meet life on life's terms. Willing to feel. Willing to keep going. And at the core of that willingness is the practice of self-control and rationality. If you can master yourself, there is little the world can take from you. But if you are a slave to impulse, to distraction, to ego, then no amount of success will bring peace. Epictetus said, "No man is free who is not master of himself." That's not just a quote, it's a map. Self-control doesn't mean denying your emotions or suppressing your desires. It means not being dominated by them. It's the difference between feeling anger and letting anger drive your decisions. Between craving comfort and abandoning your values to chase it. Rationality gives you the space to choose. To ask, is this action aligned with my principles? Is this thought based in truth or just a fear in disguise? Is this choice making me stronger or weaker? The world is full of noise. Algorithms, temptations, endless opinions. But when you train your mind, through reflection, through stillness, through intentional action, you reclaim your sovereignty. You become the calm in the storm, the clarity in confusion, the steady hand in a shaking world. That's the Stoic path, not control over others but control over yourself. And from that control arises true power. Not the power to dominate but the power to endure, to influence with integrity, and to live with purpose. Once you begin to take ownership of your thoughts, your reactions, your inner world, something profound starts to happen. You begin to see yourself not as a passive recipient of life's challenges, but as a participant in your own becoming. And one of the most powerful tools for this transformation is often overlooked, yet foundational in Stoicism: reflective practices for growth. The unexamined life, Socrates warned, is not worth living. And the Stoics took this to heart. Each night, Marcus Aurelius would reflect in his journal, not for vanity but for clarity. What did I do well today? Where did I fall short? What did I learn? Where did I let anger slip in? Where did I maintain composure? This wasn't self-criticism. It was self-honesty. Because without reflection we repeat. Without awareness we regress. You don't need ornate rituals to begin this practice. Just a pen. Just a few quiet minutes. A willingness to sit with your day, your choices, your inner dialogue. Journaling turns life into a dialogue with the soul. And over time, it reveals patterns. The fears that keep returning, the strengths you've underestimated, the wisdom you've gained but forgotten. It grounds you in progress, not perfection. You begin to see that growth is not a straight line, it's a spiral. You revisit the same lessons but with deeper insight each time. And in those moments of reflection, you reclaim your direction. You stop drifting. You steer. But the Stoic path is not only inward, it's also about how you act in the face of resistance. That's where perseverance and grit come in. There's a quiet heroism in not giving up, in rising each day and doing what needs to be done, especially when it's hard, especially when no one's watching. Modern life sells us on shortcuts, on comfort, on constant reward. But Stoicism reminds us, the reward is in the effort. The meaning is in the striving. Epictetus put it bluntly, difficulties show a person's character. Not ease, not praise, difficulties. That's where you meet yourself. When the path is steep, your legs burn, but your resolve is forged. When the task is boring, your patience is tested, but your discipline is shaped. When the goal is distant, your faith is shaken, but your commitment is proven. Perseverance doesn't mean never falling. It means falling and getting back up. It means setting your aim not by the outcome but by the virtue of effort. That's how the Stoic sees success, not in accolades but in alignment. And grit? Grit is love in motion. It's devotion to a higher purpose, even when you're tired, even when you're doubting. It's the refusal to betray your principles just because the road got tough. But no one walks that road alone. Even the most self-disciplined Stoics valued community. Seneca wrote letters. Marcus led an empire. Epictetus taught students. Resilience is individual, but it is sustained by others. Find those who encourage your better nature, who hold you accountable to your highest self, who walk with you not for comfort but for truth. And as you walk this path of perseverance, self-reflection, and virtue, there will come a moment when you realize you are no longer who you were. You have been forged, tempered, refined by fire, not hardened, humbled, not invincible, but unshakable, because you've learned the most Stoic truth of all, that suffering is not the opposite of strength. It is the crucible of it, and through it we remember who we truly are and who we're still becoming. So when challenges come, as they will, don't ask, why me? Ask instead, what is this here to teach me? Because every challenge rightly faced becomes part of your transformation. If you've walked with the Stoics this far, then you already sense it, that this path is not about avoiding the storms of life. It's about learning to stand still in the rain, calm and resolved. Because the ultimate power lies not in controlling the world, but in controlling your response to it. And this last Stoic perspective may be the most liberating of all. Amor fati, love your fate. Sounds simple, maybe even naive. But to love your fate, to truly embrace everything that happens to you as necessary, even the pain, is the deepest Stoic strength. It's not resignation. It's transcendence. When you say, amor fati, you are not saying, I wanted this. You are saying, this has come. I accept it, and I will find a way to use it. The hardship, a lesson in patience. The betrayal, a call to clarity. The delay, an invitation to persistence. The loss, a portal to gratitude. You stop resisting the present moment. You stop labeling life as good or bad. You let go of the illusion that things should have gone differently. And you say, this is mine. This is part of the story I was meant to live. And I will not just endure it. I will love it. Because once you begin to love fate, truly love it, you reclaim your peace. Not because life is easy, but because you've made peace your decision. You begin to see the whole of life, not as a random series of events, but as a canvas upon which you are painting your character. With every challenge, a brushstroke. With every setback, a shade of depth. With every trial, a new layer of resilience. And this is where Stoicism becomes not just a philosophy, but a way of being. Not reactive, not bitter, not dependent on outcomes or applause, but grounded, focused, grateful, fiercely calm. You start to live in alignment with nature, not just the trees and wind and seasons, but with your own nature. You return to your core values, courage, justice, wisdom, self-restraint. And you begin to trust, not in fate blindly, but in your capacity to meet it well. Because what you fear loses its grip when you stop running from it, and what you carry with intention no longer burdens you, it strengthens you. This is the essence of Stoicism. To look at the chaos of life and still choose composure. To face uncertainty and still act with virtue. To encounter pain and still find meaning. And above all, to live each day not as if it were a means to an end, but as if it were enough on its own. So if you remember nothing else from these 10 Stoic perspectives, remember this. You already have what you need to face what's in front of you. The strength is within. The clarity is within. The calm is within. You are not broken. You are becoming. And with each moment, each breath, you have the chance to choose again. To return to your values. To rise in silence. To live with intention. So the next time life tests you, don't shrink. Stand tall. Be still. And say to yourself, this too is for me. And let that be your beginning. If this spoke to you, subscribe to Stoic Way for more timeless wisdom. Comment below, which Stoic principle helped you through your greatest challenge, and how did it change you?